Welcome back to Greg's Preaching Right Division. So, to follow my videos, you really need to have a Bible. Um, if we look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, it says, "Except your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees, you will not enter into the kingdom of heaven." Your righteousness, and the words kingdom of heaven. None of this applies to us. Paul said in Philippians 3:9, read chapter 3 of Philippians. Paul says he doesn't want to have anything to do with his righteousness. So Paul's talking about Matthew 5:20, and he says in Philippians 3:9, I don't want to be found having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but I want to be found in having his righteousness, which is after he dies on the cross. See, Jesus didn't die on the cross until the end of Matthew. So when Jesus is talking about your righteousness, which is under the law, he's actually talking about the law. It's plain as day. So there's a lot of people running around trying to apply their righteousness to the situation, and their righteousness is no longer in play. Paul says in Philippians 3:9, and be found in him, not having mine own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is of faith, of Jesus Christ, his death, burial, resurrection is actually what Paul preaches about, which is the righteousness of God. So there's two righteousness of law. It's mentioned in Romans 2. Romans 2:26 says there's righteousness of the law, word for word. And Romans 3:5 says there's righteousness of God. 3:21, righteousness of God. And Philippians 3 says there's righteousness of the law again, and Paul doesn't want to have anything to do with that. And Jesus is talking once again about that in Matthew 5. Except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees, you'll not enter into the kingdom of God, of heaven. Now Matthew 10:5-7 even says. So look at those words, Matthew 5, verse 20, when Jesus says, except your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees, you'll not enter into the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is not for anybody but for Israel. Matthew 10:5-7. Go not to the Gentiles or Samaritans with the kingdom of heaven, and it's only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So there are two righteousness, two kingdoms, and Paul didn't want to have anything to do with his righteousness, your righteousness exceeding the righteousness of the Pharisees. He wants Jesus' righteousness. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. It all comes from the cross.